podcast that we like to do in our spare time because we actually play games.
I mean, that's what you didn't sound exactly sure of yourself there, mate.
Sorry. The we was the unsure bit there.
I was gonna say, do you want to rerun that by with a bit more, once more with
conviction,
feeling?
Cameron.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
of gamers,
Believe it.
best achievement hunting podcast in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike those Americans who think they're the best.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You can just leave it there.
Cool. Yeah.
It's also episode 16. Just maybe mention that.
Okay, yeah. Also episode 16, we have a guest this week, and we have lovely new graphics that I've spent countless hours on that, as the show begins, I'm not happy with again, so expect something different next week.
I swear to God, we go through more redesigns than Facebook.
Oh, you want to talk about that this week?
No, I do not want to talk. Well, maybe.
I'll just add 2 seconds. The amount of people that have gone like, oh, they're changing the name of Facebook. Like, no, that's not what they're doing. They're changing the company's name, not the... Anyway. Social media, yeah? Alright, so time to get into it. I'm Cameron. I'm an aspiring content creator known as Shadowless Edge. I stream nightly on Twitch and was awarded the Xbox Hall of Fame for Game Pass in Australia. I love to dive into games released on Xbox just to give people an indication of whether they're worth playing or whether you should avoid them. I thought we should do a proper intro because we're 16 episodes in now and we kind of just treat it like everybody's know what the stick is now.
I mean, I would hope so. 16 episodes in, but you're probably right.
We might have some new time listeners. You never know. I don't know why, but
that's when you say if you want to learn about us, go listen to our previous 15 episodes.
Exactly. We got a whole YouTube
listens up.
But this is gonna be the best episode we've done yet.
Oh wow. Okay.
See, conviction.
Yeah, see, that's good.
I believe that. Yeah.
All right. So in center, we are joined by Matt, my lovely co-host, better known as Neomaster, who currently holds the most gamer score in both Oceania. Yeah, whatever. Cool.
Australia
and New Zealand, because we don't worry about Polynesia and all that other stuff. Yeah, cool. I was awarded the Xbox Hall of Fame for both gamer score and achievements in New Zealand. And to our very right, we're joined by Shane Bailey, who we've been trying to get on for so long. But we just thought it'd be awkward to ask, hey, you want to dump your podcast for the night just to come on ours? So we came to a compromise and we're on each other's.
Exactly, yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're going to do a quick guest here and then you guys jump over to mine a bit later. It's going to be double whammy. It's like 4 hours of podcasting. Woohoo!
Oh, it's fine for me, but Matt's going to be like, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. by the time we finish up?
That's fine. It's a regular Friday for me. You know me, party animal.
Anyway, so Shane is known by Magic_Cast. Yep. Cool.
Magic Cast, yep.
Yep, and streams. You stream nightly on Twitch now, or is it pretty?
Definitely not nightly.
Okay.
No, I wish I could. No, I stream as often as I was gonna say can, but that's not true. Like there are nights where I'm just like, you know what, I just want to play games.
Yeah.
I don't want the pressure of entertaining everyone. So
can you imagine that? Can you imagine that playing games for their own sake and not for content?
Exactly. Yeah. So listen, I have dropped off quite a bit, but I do 2 regular shows. One is the Question Box, which is a mostly weekly video game talk show Friday nights. It's kind of right after Hall of Gamers podcast, so you can check that out. And I also do a film review show called the Movie Magic Show every Wednesday with some mates as well. So yeah, they're the 2 bits that are usually on all the time, and every now and then I'll jump in, play some Hades, play some Siege, and stream it. Yeah, I definitely will be streaming Halo when it launches as well. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for Halo to come out. The next few months are just crazy in terms of the games that are releasing.
Definitely.
But I guess without further ado, we should get into Song of the Week, which I had ready 2 seconds ago. Where's it gone now?
I got my easel, I got my brush, I need inspiration, I need to start. You're leaving Game Pass, only got a week. You got me walking, scrounging round the trees. I don't want to be out after dark. I want to stop freezing my ass. I want to wait for the day. Cause I gotta sketch the whole aisle, and it goes on for miles and miles, and there's a fetch quest for days. A wee shade, it's sweet. Won't you capture all the birds in the trees? Craft boats, brew tea. and chill out in a hot spring of 3.
It just clicked. It just clicked.
Okay, so a little bit behind the. Also, firstly, thank you again. This was another song written by our lovely moderator and good friend of the show, Charmander. I've gone in and edited a little bit so I could actually sing it because I don't have quite the range that the band does. But
that Adam Levine has.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So good. Yeah, I'm glad. So a little bit behind the curtain, we can't hear the music, so I have to send it beforehand. But to listen to it around the same time, and Cameron was like, I almost know what it is. And so long-time listeners will know Cameron has often complained that my musical taste usually stops at 1992. So most of the songs he's just never heard of for some reason because he has no taste. So we decided finally, Charlotte and I decided, well, we need to come up with something that's a bit more relevant and recent. So 2015 is when this song came out. So do you know what the song is?
Yes,
Cameron?
I know what it is. So my original train of thought was, just for total transparency, was I was thinking Justin Timberlake.
Okay, all right.
Which I don't think is that far off Adam Levine in my defense.
I can kind of see it.
And for whatever reason after that, because of Persephone, I just had the Trolls soundtracks stuck in my head.
Oh my God.
But it's Sugar. Sugar is the song.
Yeah.
And Maroon 5 was the very first concert I ever went to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Back in 2011, I think. But yeah.
Proud to say that I did guess it as well. And
okay, good.
Bravo to yourself, Matt, and Charmander as well. Like, one of my favorite parts of the show each week. I love it.
I'm glad
so
somebody does. We always ask for feedback about the show, but most of the time it's like, yeah, we love the show. I'm like, are there any parts? Like, no, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, okay, great. But it's good to hear that people don't absolutely hate Song of the Week, because
I like it.
We've had guests on with like, wow, that's the most cringe thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm like, oh,
that's the point.
I mean, that is kind of the point. Yes.
Unique selling point. Lean into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you can't look at yourself and have a good laugh, then what are you doing?
I mean, that's exactly. Well, we stream, right? So it's kind of have to face the facts. All right, well, good job, guys. I appreciate that. And great job, Charlotte. Halloween miracle.
Allison is a Halloween freaking miracle. Of course, all the miracles would happen for us on Halloween.
Exactly. All right, well, let's have a chat with our guest here, Shane. I'm sure Cameron's got a few questions to bug you with, and I'm sure I'll come up with a couple as well. But Cameron, do you want to kick us off?
I guess starting off, I've got so many questions, and I'm just trying to think which one's going to be the best lead into. I guess starting off, like, what kind of gamer are you?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I am a gameplay is king kind of guy. Yeah. Not to say that I don't appreciate a good story in games, but typically, if I were to rattle off my top 10, top 20 favorite games, you would surmise that, okay, this guy loves his mechanics and being challenged, but not too much. Like, I can't say I'm a Dark Souls fan, mainly because I haven't tried them. For the most part, I don't enjoy the art style. I think they're just a bit gross.
You're not doing Dark Souls in Morse code like Rudism was this week?
No, thanks. No.
That's crazy.
No. Even I look at Bloodborne, I'm like, ooh, it's so yucky and
wet
it is.
And it's very much
and slimy. I'm like, ooh.
It's not a place to be. Yeah.
I would say I'm a gameplay's king kind of guy. Like I said, there are still some fantastic game stories that I love, and some games that are in my favorite games of all time would be there because of their stories. I think of Celeste, which I think is like a 10 out of 10 across the board in gameplay, music, art style, mechanics. I feel the same way about something like BioShock or Portal 2, which also have great stories. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. They're very mechanically interesting game, but the story hits you like a brick at the end.
It's a good mix of those, actually, right? Because it's they're integrated in there really, really well.
But my favorite game of all time is Halo 3, and I don't think anyone's going to write home necessarily about the story and how that made you feel. It's epic sci-fi opera, right? So it's doing its job. It's leaning into that, which I appreciate. But I just love. Halo's my favorite series. I love the freedom and the creativity it affords the player. And jumping into Halo 3 now, 14 years later, legendary co-op with friends is still one of the most enjoyable gaming experiences you can have today. So to answer you in one sentence, gameplay is king kind of guy. Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. It's funny how Halo went from that point of being extremely playable, Halo MCC comes out, to which state it is not at all, and then now it's near perfect again. I guess with that, what kind of place do achievements take in your gaming?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised this topic because I've got so many questions for you guys on like what you love about achievements as well, which we'll save for my show. I think actually I want to make that the main topic of this week's episode, achievements, because of obviously what you guys do here. But what place they hold in sort of my gaming lifestyle? I would say, I'm going to be honest, not very high up there. But I will say that when a game hooks me in a way that some of my favorite games have hooked me, more often than not, I am driven to just play it as much as possible. And then that's when I start looking at achievements and think to myself, okay, is there something here that I can strive for that's going to force me to play the game in a different way or enjoy it in a different fashion? So that's something I've been doing recently with Hades. I think I'm about 3 achievements away from 1000 G. But there haven't been many games that I've done that for. I think Limbo is one that I've done on the 360. I'm going through it again on the Xbox One version now, which is obviously backwards compatible on the series consoles. But every now and then I'll take a look at the achievements and think, okay, is this really interesting? But more often than not, I find games are like at least one is going to be 9 possible for me to realistically achieve. So I can't say I'm disappointed, but I just know like, okay, I know that I'm not going to go for 100% with this title. But having said that, I do enjoy, chasing achievements and I guess playing the game in new ways and different kind of ways to, find a different way to enjoy that game.
Which is, it's a good way to look at it. I was just trying to get a read on Matt then when you sent Limbo, just to how he's...
we'll get into that when we talk about what we've been playing this week. But yeah.
Cool. I guess where did your gaming journey start? Like, have you always been in gaming, or is it more of a late life?
Yeah, so you just talk about like just getting into gaming in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up. I was born 1990, so you can calculate the age that way.
You're not older than us. No way.
Yeah, I don't know how old you guys are, but I was 31 in May.
I'm 93.
Yeah, 92. So yes.
Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so my first console I owned was the Super Nintendo, and that was back in like when I was 5-6 years old, I think. My cousins had an NES, so I had played a lot of the Mario games. They also had a Sega Mega Drive, so I really enjoyed games like Golden Axe, Streets of Rage on that. But my first gaming love was Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo. It's one of the only games, pardon me, that I owned on the Super Nintendo, and that was fine by me. Like I wasn't sort of complaining that I didn't have other games to play. That's kind of like all I knew, and I could just boot that game up over and over again and have a blast every single time. And I think that's what's given me my love of platformers, definitely. And like I think challenging games with interesting mechanics as well. Like you think about all the different mechanics that you have in that game, from like the ground pound to throwing the eggs and Yoshi's tongue and whatnot. I think that's what's given me my love of things like Ori and the Blind Forest and Will of the Wisps, Celeste, like I mentioned, Cuphead even. So that was Super Nintendo. I was a Nintendo kid growing up, so I moved over to Nintendo 64. And oddly enough, I never owned any of like the big 64 games. Like I never owned Ocarina of Time or Mario 64 or Mario Kart. For whatever reason, I think my mum and my dad just like went to whatever gaming store was around then, and they knew that I liked Rare games. So they just bought Rare games instead. If they saw the Rare logo on the box, I think they bought that. So I had Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark. I did play Super Smash Brothers. Trying to think if there was any other major titles I really loved on the 64. There are a couple more, but they were the main ones.
It's
GoldenEye,
funny
of course.
How much of a clone this is to my N64.
Right.
Growing up, like exact same situation. Never had any of the Marios other than Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Which I really wouldn't call Mario, but has Mario in it.
Yeah.
GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie. Like Banjo-Kazooie was the first game I ever played.
All right. Yep. No, awesome. Yeah, that would be up there with one of my favorites as well. So yeah, 64, and then I migrated over to the original Xbox, and I distinctly remember being at a Westfield with my dad at the time, and just seeing like the huge window display, I think in Target, of the green X on the black background. I was like, what on earth is this? And I went into electronic boutiques at the time, and there was a game pod there. You could actually play the game on the giant Duke controller when I was like 11 years old. And there was a game on there called Gunmetal. It was like a third-person action game where you could play as a jet, and also it could transform into a mech, so kind of like Transformers. And I was hooked that instant. I told my dad that day, I was like, we need to go home and trade in money to Nintendo 64 because I need this right now. And we did. And I kind of wish we didn't trade in the 64, to be quite honest. But but as a kid, like, you didn't have, much pocket money back then. So that was the only realistic way to do it. And then, got Gunmetal. And that Christmas, my brother and I got Project Gotham and Halo Combat Evolved. And then Halo was the one that's what cemented me as, I think, like a gamer for life. I was addicted to Halo. I'd come home from school every day and just run like the first 5 missions up till Guilty Spark, because I was always scared of the flood as a kid. So I just play the first 5 missions of Combat Evolved, and that would be it. And then I remember like the thing that got me into like the games industry, made me a fan of the industry, was seeing Halo 2 on official Xbox magazine. And that was the first magazine that I ever bought, and then that got me into just buying them monthly and just reading up about the industry and learning about all these names of developers and publishers and figureheads as well. And then I remember being there day one on 360. That probably my favorite console of all time, I'd say. And then from there it's kind of been mostly Xbox. I game a lot on PC now, just because of my love for Rainbow Six Siege, which I can get into a bit and how that came about. But I have dabbled in other consoles like handheld, which has mostly been my Pokemon machine growing up. Huge Pokemon fan, not so much anymore. Have enjoyed a bit of PlayStation, owned a PS3 and PS4. Like, I enjoyed Journey, Uncharted, The Last of Us. That's probably the main ones on Sony's side. And have owned a Switch, but sold it at the start of COVID just because I was mostly using it to play games when I was traveling, which obviously wasn't happening anymore. Yeah. So sorry, I've rattled on for so long. You've just got my life story.
That's what we're here for, mate. Totally fine.
Gives us a good indication. I guess out of that, like the games that you have played, whether it be achievements, trophies, and that, what's one of your like proudest moments, and what's one of your not so proudest moments?
Oh, good question. Not sure this is a proud moment, but I'll say that one of my fondest gaming moments was running Gears of War 2 insane co-op with my mate Brad when we were teenagers. That was we picked up the game on the day. He came over. He slept over. We had a bit of a slumber party, and we just played through the whole campaign from start to finish. It was the first time I'd ever done that. Usually I'm the type of person who will play a game like Halo, single player, heroic first, and then enjoy it on Legendary with friends after, just so I absorb and can appreciate the story without, mates yapping in my ear during cutscenes. So that was one of my fondest gaming memories. I have so many fond memories growing up playing, those Nintendo 64 games with my brother and my cousins, 360 days online. And even now, actually, like recently, like gaming, you guys probably share similar thoughts. Gaming through the pandemic has been incredible. Like I can't imagine what I'd be doing without video games these past 2 years. So it's connected me with friends that have since moved away. Friends that I had growing up nearby that are now living in Armidale and Canberra and Sydney. So yeah, that's been pretty good. In terms of like not proud moments, nothing jumps to mind. There are games that I wish I played when they were big that I feel like I can't go back to anymore, just because I can't appreciate what they were at the time, and to play them now they feel a bit dated. So there are series that I almost fear going back to, just because I feel like I would have a negative experience for the first time. Like, I've never played a Final Fantasy game, never played a Metal Gear game. So there are big franchises that I kind of wish I got into at the time, I'd say.
It's never too late. You just gotta pick and choose a little more carefully than just going from. Yeah. Because there are the best thing about having hindsight is you can look at the review scores and go, you know what? Maybe I'll just give that one a miss. And most people would be like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. And like, there are so many games being remade now that I'm almost like, I might just wait until it's remade eventually.
Especially on the Metal Gear front, like there was talk about apparently
so many rumors.
A rumor of the first one getting remade, or Metal Gear Solid getting remade, which is hoping. So
for me, it's just understanding why they're so seminal for our industry, like why they play an important part about within the video game industry. It's like we hold Mario 64 up so high for being for ushering in 3D gaming, or Grand Theft Auto 3 for starting open worlds, Halo for really making first-person shooters shine on consoles. So I like to just understand why they're important to the history of video games, I think,
It's interesting with that too, like even going back to some of the ones that you do have fond experiences of and realizing that nostalgia doesn't hold up. Like, I've tried to go back to GoldenEye on N64 so many times, and it's impossible.
Anything on the N64 is pretty rough these days with that damn control, that three-handed controller that you need. It's like
controllers have come a far way.
Yeah. Ergonomics has come.
Nintendo still hasn't got the idea, but
no, but it's what it is.
But I guess with that, so 4 weeks ago you got a job as head of gaming and streaming for Cure Cancer Australia. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, to back it up maybe a tiny bit, like I've been working in the games industry for a long time. Before Cure Cancer, I was at Ubisoft Australia for almost 6 years across a variety of different marketing departments, brand management, communications, and towards the end, esports events and partnerships. I started with Cure Cancer 4 years ago as head of gaming and streaming. It sounds like a really weird title to have at a cancer charity. I just ran into a friend from high school, actually, I hadn't seen in years, just this morning. And he asked me what I was doing, and he kind of had a confused look on his face when I told him. But for a bit of background, Cure Cancer has been around for more than 50 years. Their main purpose is to fund the early career cancer researchers who are trying to dedicate their lives to curing cancer. And because they're just coming out of their PhD and into research for the first time, more often than not, they don't benefit from the very scarce government grants that go around to fund their research. So sadly, a lot of them either leave research or move overseas to pursue other opportunities. So it's Cure Cancer's mission to fund them and help them get their start. In the 50 odd years the organization's been around, they've raised $80 million, which equates to about 530 odd grants for researchers, which is fantastic. Just a couple of years ago, the team kind of started dabbling in the gaming space, just doing fundraising activities with streamers and at events and partnerships with publishers and event organizations like PAX. And it's been going really well. So they decided they wanted to double down on that. And I have been looking for opportunities outside of pure gaming for a while. I've got a big passion for charity, having volunteered for a few organizations myself. So the opportunity to take kind of my gaming expertise and lend it to such a good cause was something I couldn't pass up. So looking to work with anyone and everyone in the games industry to obviously support the researchers who are trying to do God's work. I'm only 4 weeks in. We've got big stuff planned. You'll start hearing about some really exciting things soon. So if you like, just follow Cure Cancer AU on Twitter, and curecancer.com.au is the website. There'll be more to come. But really excited about what we have coming up.
Watch your space.
Exactly.
Matt, do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's. I think you've covered most.
Sorry, Charlotte wanted to ask us about the 1 in 20 fundraiser that you're doing.
Oh, Charlotte, you are the best. Yes. So I mentioned earlier that I've been really passionate about charity for a long time. I've been volunteering for how long has it been? It'll be almost 6 years actually, for an organisation called Feel the Magic. They are Australia's leading grief education organisation. So they support kids and families who have lost loved ones, kids who usually have lost a parent, mum or dad, or a sibling, and they've been around for a while. I lost my dad when I was 13 years old, so the organization means a hell of a lot to me, and it's just a fantastic community. They've got a fundraising event that's just ending in a couple of days. It's gone all the way through October, but it's called the 1 in 20 challenge, and it's called that because according to the ABS, 1 in 20 Australian kids will lose a parent before they turn 18. So for the month of October, I've signed up along with a whole bunch of other volunteers to try and raise money. And to do so, we are walking, running, traveling 120 kilometers in October. I originally had a goal of 500, then I met that. I bumped up to 1,000, then 1,500, and now 2,000, and we eclipsed that. So I've doubled my kilometers. I'm doing 240 kilometers in the month just to make it a bit more challenging. Right now I think I'm at 2,100. It's the generosity from friends and family and people in the gaming community has been absolutely amazing. There's a couple more days to go. I think the overall goal for Feel the Magic is 125K, and that's getting really, really close. So if you can support, would love that. Just head to my Twitter account, magic_casts. And I think it might, actually, no, it's not my pinned tweet. Anyway, there's the links in my Twitter.
You'll send us the tweet and we'll put it up on ours.
That's it.
People
That's
can
it.
find it. Cool.
There you go. I'll shoot it to you now so you can post it in the chat. Thank you, Charmander, for reminding me to plug that. And thank you guys.
As someone who only just got like a treadmill like a week ago because they wanted to start walking, good job with that.
I gotta say, like podcasts like yours, that's the best time to listen to it. It kind of distracts you from the pain of walking that far.
That's exactly
often.
That's exactly what I'm doing with the Xbox Cast on Tuesdays at the moment. Just like just get on the treadmill, because as long as you're distracted, it's perfect. But if you're thinking about, like, if you got nothing else to focus on, you just want to get off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you guys. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to plug that one.
No, that's great. I think that was pretty much it for questions. Did chat have anything else before we move on?
Let's give chat a little bit of an opportunity to catch up and see if they have any questions for later in the show once we get closer to wrapping up.
There we go. Charlotte's posted in chat.
And if you're listening to it, you'll find it on our Twitter.
Amazing. Well. Thanks, Charmander. I posted it here as well, so in our chat on on Zoom, so we can share it at the end of the show as well.
Thank you very much. All right. Maybe we should start getting into the news then.
Yep.
Cameron, what have you found for us this week?
All right. So just straight off the bat, I want to talk about a movie that I've actually watched.
Okay, so this has to be seen to be believed, because I was of the opinion that you've never seen any movies ever.
Sometimes So when I was traveling to Swan Hill with Stephanie, basically on those weekends, we watched the movies on Netflix, and we had access to A Quiet Place. Have you both seen A Quiet Place? Did you do it for the Movie Magic show?
No, we didn't actually, because I am a horror pansy. So when I saw the rundown, and later we're going to talk about Halloween games, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be terrible at this.
I've seen it, which is I'm mixed about it. It's not a bad film.
I liked it as its premise, but basically it's becoming a single player story-driven horror adventure game.
Yeah.
Done by Saber Interactive.
Well,
I think it was... What? What's wrong with Saber?
No, it'll be fine. It's fine. I'm interested.
You're just thinking like World War Z, horrible achievement list.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, oh, we're gonna put some grindy multiplayer in there. Probably not, but yeah, okay, it's interesting. What do we know about it?
So set for release in 2022, it will be an untold story survival set in the Quiet Place universe. So that suggests it might tell an original story as opposed to following the events of the films. According to the official description, the game captures the compelling suspense, emotion, and drama for which the series is famous, and developers who worked on the Far Cry and Rainbow Six franchises are coming along to work on the new game. There's no word yet on platforms, other than it's just going to be a single-player story-driven horror game, and it'll let fans experience the tension of the films with a level of immersion they never felt before. The reason I bring this up is I really like the film. And I really... Okay. I like horror in that medium. Where it's like suspenseful rather than jump scares and all that kind of bullshit.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. It sounds like it's kind of going in the vein of the Telltale Life is Strange narrative first, gameplay second kind of game. Although I'm sure it'll probably have some stealth elements and bits and pieces in there, because they're saying it's like a adventure game, which Like, what does that mean?
Who was it recently? We were having discussion about like I don't like it when I can't fight back in horror games. Was that Mike?
That might have been Mike last week. Yeah.
Like just that. Like I don't mind those kind of games as long as it feeds in with the story and the atmosphere of the game.
I don't know. I mean, Shane, you've said that you're gameplay first, narrative second for the most part. But have you gotten into any of the sort of Telltale or any of those kind of more narrative focused games where it's mostly about consequences and choices?
I really have tried a lot. I've tried a few of them, and they just haven't clicked with me. Like I think the first one I tried was Heavy Rain back in the day when I had a PS3, and it just didn't click with me. I can get on board like the idea of a quasi interactive way to experience a narrative like that. And I did try the first season of The Walking Dead and the Telltale's Batman as well. Haven't tried Detroit Become Human just because of my negative experience with Heavy Rain. Again, because I'm gameplay is king kind of guy, I it's hard for me to sort of care about them or just be hooked on the mechanics. I really feel as though I'm not doing enough to be really invested. Even though you can, I understand there are a lot of people who get hooked on, okay, this is my story, I'm crafting where the narrative goes. Like totally love that, and really glad that obviously those people love it and experience it, and it's good to have a variety of genres and that sort of thing. All the games can't just be the same. But it's just really not my kind of thing. I hope there's a game that comes along and does it for me. I think I will try Life is Strange, though I have been warned that sometimes the writing in that game can be a bit cringy. I have Tell Me Why actually from the same developer downloaded, just because it's in Game Pass, and I just haven't jumped into it. So I will always try and go back and just see how we go, but for the moment, no, that genre kind of hasn't grabbed me yet.
Totally understandable. It's very much and I'll talk a little bit about it because I played like the new Life is Strange when we get to what we've been playing, but the those games don't change in any real meaningful way. If you're not into the mechanics or the overall arching way the game works, they don't change from game to game. It's essentially a new story with some minor tweaks and some surprises, but it's very narrative focused and gameplay maybe third.
Right.
I'll be interested to see what they do with this, but that's the kind of feeling that I'm getting from this. I've been playing a lot more of those narrative games recently, partly because that's the kind of games that I usually enjoy. Like I'm definitely a narrative first person, but also because they're relatively easy games to score most of the time as well. So there's not a huge amount of investment required. But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to keep an eye on this, but it
really depends on like what they're trying to aim for with it. Like when you talk of like Walking Dead, that kind of stuff, it's almost like the gameplay is just serviceable.
Yeah, it's just there. It's just there to mask the fact that you're just basically picking options and you have to walk a little bit here and solve.
Right. Yeah. It's like barely interactive. Right.
Yeah. And the games are on a sliding scale, right? Like you have like the Walking Dead is like on the extreme scale of almost having no interactivity.
Yeah.
And then you've got stuff as Life is Strange, which has some puzzle stuff and a little bit of other stuff wandering around. And
what about like Man of Medan, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and so Man of Medan is also kind of a little bit more on that because there's more like quick time events, and that's more like the Heavy Rain style where there is a bit more gameplay and a bit more action and things going on. I'm hoping that leans more in that direction at least, where it's like, hey, you're still controlling a character. There might be some stealth sections because you're hiding a lot. There might be some more horror stuff in terms of rather than just being like, well, press X to be spooked. It's like that's kind of. I don't really think that works in a horror. Like I don't think the horror works when there aren't stakes, because like narrative horror works when you're watching it because you're watching other people do things. But if you have to do the things and suddenly you're making gameplay decisions, it's like, okay, well, what's scary about it? I guess is like in a true horror sense. Because like scariness from horror comes from, in games at least, usually comes from agency. For you making a decision that gets you messed up.
Yeah. Were there any details, Cameron, on whether like the film, like the creators of the IP were involved?
I don't know.
Krasinski directed and wrote it.
He wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it and directed it. Yeah.
Like if the game was actually written by him, I would like play this in a heartbeat. It would be a day one purchase. But no, it just talks about the fact that together they made more than 600 million at the box office. A third film, which is a spin-off, is coming in 2023. Because I had the longest plans. I had plans to watch the second one for the longest time. Like, I enjoyed the first movie that much that I was going to go and support it in cinemas, and then COVID hit and delay. It's like my concerts. Like, I've had a short stack tickets that have been delayed like 4 times now. The next concert's in June 2022.
I'm still waiting to see My Chemical Romance, you know, to relive my teenage years, because it's like it's that's how long it feels like it's been at least.
15th year anniversary of the Black Parade this week.
Yeah,
that's so funny you mentioned Short Stack. I was just talking about it with my cousin because her and I we played hockey with Sean from Short Stack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
He was in the same hockey club as us growing up. So it was just so weird to all of a sudden one day see he's like in this huge band. I'm like, what is that, Sean? What the hell?
No, I think we originally had tickets in like March 2020, and yeah, it's just crazy to go like, all right, cool. It's been delayed like 4 times now. It was meant to be running with Good Things Festival at the end of the year, and then got delayed again. It's like, just COVID end already. But I mean, yeah, what can you do?
Now the Quiet Place is the theater where it was going to be played, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to listen to all our concerts through Fortnite.
If you're really high on A Quiet Place, then maybe I'll dabble in it. Because I remember
it's just the atmosphere in the film.
Okay.
Like,
I could get on board with that.
It's more of a thriller than a horror movie, to be honest. Like it has like elements of like, you know, basically the premise is that there are scary things that will come and hunt you if they can hear you, so you need to be really quiet.
And I think it's just the fact that John and Emily's chemistry too, like in real life compared to the movie, like it's just perfect on so many levels. But
I mean, my big problem, and I don't want to turn this into an episode of Lights, Camera, and Action, but
can we watch Quiet Place again? I'll actually watch.
We can watch Quiet Place at some stage. Yeah, we got a lot of other video game movies to watch first. Is that essentially like my problem with it is that the overall conceit of like the monsters being able to hear you with stuff doesn't make any sense once you start breaking it down. It's like, okay, well, they didn't hear this really fucking loud thing that you did. But like, you go next to the waterfall and you can yell as much as you want, but also we don't build anything near the water anyway. I'm not going to get into it, but I have some problems with it.
Well, so you're saying humans being humans?
Yes. I'm saying that is a flawed movie that you know was very successful. What else have you got, Cameron?
All right, moving along, because we always like to talk about Game Pass on this podcast. Everspace 2's Xbox Game Pass deal is a blessing, developer says. So, developer Rockfish Games came out and showered praise for Microsoft's subscription service after bringing Everspace 2 via its preview initiative. That's basically the story right there. I believe they were also getting some flack from some individuals where, I don't know if it was a community manager or somebody else in Rockfish Games came out and said, actually, this is a really good thing for a small developer like us. Essentially because Microsoft is willing to take a bet on us, as well at the same time as giving us a huge cash inflow, and we don't have to change anything creatively. As has always been the case of so many of these other studios that we've seen, except for that one guy that came out and spoke against it, which I can't remember who it was. What studio was it?
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but yeah, it's. I mean,
I think even a few months ago now.
Yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly, the news the news we hear out of developers who go into Game Pass is that it's either good news or no news. So
yeah. So thanks to this major deal, we can afford to work another 6 to 9 months on the full release and make sure the end game of Everspace 2 will be worth your while to the developer added. Also bringing additional external artists and devs to the roster, spending even more budget on final polish of all handcrafted locations and in-game cutscenes. Watch for more details of the official release, while avoiding the anticipated fierce competition from several major delayed AA and AAA titles releasing in the second half of 2022. Long update short, you're going to get an even better, even more polished game for the low cost of patience. So yeah, it's in early access on PC at the moment, and it'll be launching in full for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox sometime in 2023. So yeah, little quick bit of Xbox news, of Everspace news, which it's always good when people kind of give like more of an insight into the Game Pass stuff. Because,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I love it. I'm a real believer in the model. Actually, like I know there's a lot of naysays out there, and they'll either be proven right or wrong in the future. But I think there have been enough testimonials like this coming out of particularly independent studios that say how much it's done. Like even I'm forgetting the name of the developer behind the Descenders, but just seeing the activity that their game has seen explode as well. I think it's seemingly a win-win-win situation for the developer, Microsoft, and the consumer. That at least for now, I can't see any holes in the formula other than potentially down the line. Does it hurt you when you're not on Game Pass, right? Yeah. The Rockfish Games guys speak to the fact that we will have a huge spotlight and we don't have to worry about that fierce competition anymore because we are right there, easily accessible by 18 million plus subscribers at this point. So it's great. I love this sort of thing.
There's so many positive aspects of it. Like even just you don't have to worry about checking out review scores anymore. You can just go and play a game.
Yeah.
Try it for 10, 15 minutes and go, well, is it for me? Is it not?
And I did a review discussion on Hades recently and just spoke about the power of early access as well. Like the amount of time it affords you and feedback you get from your community to polish your game up to final release. Not coming until 2023, so they're going to get at least 18 months of polish on this game, which is pretty amazing. And you can bet when it launches, hopefully it'll be in a fantastic state. Also mention here that there's no exclusivity either. Microsoft doesn't care, honestly. You release it on other platforms, that's fine. So I think that's huge. I love that.
Yeah, it's always been interesting. Like you talked about Descenders, that was the surprising thing for them. They came out and said, "Hey, look, we put this on Game Pass. People can play it for free, quote unquote." And we've had an uptick of 200% of people buying it, and it's they weren't expecting. They were expecting, everyone will just play it on Game Pass. It's no, people like this game. People have tried it. People want to support them and buy it and have it. The only real standouts I've had from that is people saying, people worried about the future of game preservation and that kind of stuff with, games as a service becoming consoles as a service and everything becoming that. But I'm also of the opinion that we kind of crossed that bridge about 10 years ago, and the fact that we're moving into an all digital future means that was kind of inevitable. And I'm glad that steps are being taken to try and hold on to a lot of that stuff.
It's funny thing mentioning that too. The only company really worried about preservation is Microsoft. That is pushing the industry.
Yeah,
at
least on the larger scale for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're totally right. Game Pass is just kind of a win for everyone. You've got that extra marketing push, the less competition, and you also get that magic of having you have your early access launch date. You've got potentially have a 1.0 launch date, and you could very well have a launching on Game Pass launch date as well. And it's you suddenly get a time to be you're part of this month's announcement of Game Pass games, and everyone's oh, I should go check that out if I haven't already. Or oh, hey, I remember that being in early access. What happened to it? Oh, it's out. Sweet. I think get back into it.
I think also just to touch on that, just to help with that late influx too, when sales start to dip.
It helps with the long tail.
Forgotten City, when it was originally releasing, was mistakenly added to the roster of games that were releasing on Game Pass, and that's when I went out of my way to message the developer, and because Modern Storyteller is Melbourne based, messaged them just to ask them, and they're just no, it's not coming to Game Pass. But you would think that deal is being done, already set up before its launch. If that mistake has happened, and then we get to October and the game officially launches in Game Pass.
Well, I think we're getting to that stage where it's you either have a game that launches in Game Pass, or it has a certain period of time before it'll end up in Game Pass. If it's a sort of small to medium size, in that sort of maybe not double A space, but not singular indie, although those do still show up, but kind of in that sort of mid space that we've lost.
Larger small teams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's still triple I or whatever you want to call it.
It also we're getting to the point now where you can start to tell which publishers are really enjoying Game Pass. Like the fact that Sega has the entire Yakuza franchise in there, Square Enix is pushing all the Final Fantasy games in there. There's like a half a dozen titles from Annapurna Interactive in there as well. So like and you'll start to see, like, I think it's Focus Entertainment now. They used to be called Focus Home Interactive. Like they threw a Plague Tale Innocence in there. It's done really well. And now a Plague Tale Requiem is a day one Game Pass title next year. Same with Ark, Survival Evolved. It's always been one of the most popular titles in Game Pass. And now Ark 2 is dropping into Game Pass day one. So like these publishers are seeing the value in it as well. Like I said, I think it's just win-win-win. And also, we I think it was Sarah Bond came out either last year or early this year speaking about how Game Pass subscribers on average are spending more money on games, which kind of goes against logic when you think about it. But I'm guilty of it, where I'll play Forza Horizon 4 through Game Pass, really enjoy it, and will think, well, I've enjoyed this so much, I want more. Let me go buy the Top Gear pack or the Lego expansion pack because I've enjoyed this so much. I don't feel bad about. I actually want to give the publisher some more money. So. I think
when you're doing that, do you have the mentality of like, well, I haven't actually gone out and spent the $60 that I would actually buy to, I'm talking American, like $60 to buy the base game. I'm going to go and spend that out on DLC because cosmetics, so I can get my bang for the buck with this subscription service that I'm paying for as well.
Yeah, that's 100% my mentality. Like I even do it with like. Actually, I'm trying to think if I've done it with free-to-play games. Siege isn't a free-to-play game, and obviously take everything I say with a grain of salt because I used to work at Ubisoft. But Siege is like probably my favorite Ubisoft game. And even then, like after playing it like so long for like 1,000 hours on console and on PC, I will happily throw money at cosmetics that I really want because it's giving me hundreds of hours of enjoyment. That's kind of my way to show my support and say, hey, I want more of this game. So I think that's probably where a lot of that comes from. And also, like, just speaking about the word of mouth power of Game Pass, like this will be sort of an anecdotal example, but there was a game on Game Pass for PC called Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, kind of an isometric tactic game, very similar to Commandos 2 way back when. And I purposely went looking for a game like that, found Shadow Tactics, loved it, told my friends about it. They bought Game Pass to actually play it. They really enjoyed it. And then Desperados 3 from the same developer, game came out. And then my friend, because he loved Shadow Tactics so much, spent full price, like $89 on Desperados 3 at launch. And in my head, I'm like, holy crap, that is the power of Game Pass right there.
Exactly.
Like, I was the word of mouth, sort of advocate for this game. They loved it. They discovered a new game that they liked. And then the developer just gained a new fan. There you go. Yeah, fantastic game. 100% recommend that game. I don't think it's on Game Pass anymore, but Desperados 3 is.
Desperados 3 is, and also you can kind of.
Wait, I have to get Desperados 3 now as well.
Yeah, you can kind of cheese the achievements a little bit if you plug in a keyboard and use some of the console commands.
Which you can use Red 047's guide for that because no other content creators have guides as good as Red 047.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyway, that's like one anecdotal example. So, but I'm sure there are many like that, right? So,
100%. I think it kind of has that best. Like every now and then I talk about my love-hate relationship with Neverwinter, the online MMO, right? And so that thing gets its free-to-play hooks into me every now and then in the most insidious way. Whereas this, like, I feel it hits that same thing where you're like, well, the investment's low because I haven't paid anything for the game, so I might as well put some money into it. But it feels like I'm actually getting more value out of it than I am from the kind of Skinner box that they usually put into this kind of stuff. So, like, I'm still being taken advantage of. And as a marketer, myself, I can acknowledge that. But at least I'm getting more value for that. So it's like I feel better about it at least, which at the end of the day, that's the main thing.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, because you have to spend 80, 100 Australian dollars to try a game traditionally. And that's kind of like, will I, won't I? Is this game going to be good? I'm not sure. But yeah, through either free to play or like a subscription like Game Pass, to your point, Cameron, you can try a game with no risk whatsoever, other than losing your time. And then it's a different kind of transaction when you're willingly choosing to give money to something that you enjoy. So yeah, I think that totally speaks to that.
Yeah. I think like I think I said like a few months ago, like starting Jan 1st next year, I'm actually going to go and add up all the games that have hit Game Pass, like coming out day one.
Oh, day one, yeah.
Just to find out how much that saving is, because like even I think achievement hunters are the people that are getting the most bang for their buck too with Game Pass.
Especially new achievement hunters. Like this is something I talked with Charlotte about a lot because she only just recently got into achievement hunting. Like Game Pass is the best value proposition for achievement hunters ever because it essentially makes the consumable nature of video games easier to deal with and gives you a wide selection of things to play. Like when Game Pass first came out, like Cameron and I, we talked about it back on like RGS and being like, well, it's good, but like we've played most of the stuff already just because, you know, a lot of it's old stuff. But now you got stuff hitting day and date. Yeah. And then you've also got that back catalog for people who are now getting into achievement hunting or haven't played every single fucking game ever made.
Our reaction back then on RGS was just like, wait, so they're putting day one releases into Game Pass.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get over that.
Play Halo straight away, you know? Exactly.
Yeah, that was really the turning point, right? Where I think the industry sort of perked up and like, you can't go back from this. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You can't backtrack. Like that really was the turning point. Like Game Pass when it was first announced, I was like, okay, this is cool. Really cheap way to play like a lot of back catalog titles. If you're not fussed about getting games day one, then it's a good value proposition for, you know, just a bunch of high quality back catalog titles. So that it was valuable then. But as an Xbox fan, like I signed up the second, I think Sea of Thieves was the first game to drop day one into Game Pass from a first party perspective. So I have been a subscriber ever since, and I think my subscription is good up until the early 2023. I have no plans to not subscribe anytime soon.
They got me the gold conversion deal.
I did the same. Yeah, exactly. So I probably need to up that a little bit. I guess that first party stuff, we'll probably just close that on this, but I guess
so. This Everspace story is meant to be like a tiny bit of
little
mention.
10% discount as well.
That first party stuff was also, I think, really as part of like a message out to the industry as a whole to say this is something we're committed to. We'll put our money where our mouth is. We want you to be on board for this. And you know, because we've seen, you know, with the stuff they did with EA, and then, you know, with all the Square Enix and the Sega stuff that you mentioned earlier, jumping on board, putting, you know, huge amounts of their catalogs of games that still sell. You know, there's still popular games, and just being like, well, you know what, we're going to try it because Microsoft has said that they're going to put their first party games, their money makers, on here. So let's see what happens, and it's going well for them.
And just to close it off, like the reason I mentioned at the top that I'm a real believer in the model is because right now we have a generation that is growing up and consuming all of their entertainment, nearly all of it, either for free or via a subscription. So that is their norm. That is what they're used to. They are used to watching things for free on Twitch and YouTube, getting their music on subscription via Spotify, all their entertainment via Netflix or, you know, Disney Plus, or whatnot. So I think it just fits into what they're used to. And again, like if they can really nail the cloud, you know, with Game Pass as well, and having that app on your TV and all you need is a controller, I really think they're positioned well to make this a huge thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this generation if we're hitting more than 60, 70 million subscribers in Game Pass. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Cameron, do you want to just we'll do the Halloween games and then move on? I
was going to say, that's going to be the easier thing.
Bloody Game Pass, I got to speak passionately.
I mean, like, we could talk about blockchain and Ubisoft.
I'm not. We do not have enough.
I'm not an expert on blockchain whatsoever, so I can't offer it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I'll go and do 6 months worth of research, and I'll come back.
I was going to say, I could talk about how NFTs seem like a fucking scam, but that's pretty much all I've got to say.
We'll save it for the marketing podcast.
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, if I can give you just like $500, you could turn it into like 20,000. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I'll need a lot of time and I need a lot of other people just like you to give me $500. Yeah. All right.
So basically, Windows Central came out with the best Xbox horror games of 2021. Sorry, best horror games in October 2021 as of date. I just wanted to quickly go through them, see if you guys agree, and then just add our own intakes. Basically, because this will come out the day of, 2 days after Halloween.
Yeah.
So super scary games. So on this list we have Resident Evil Village, Evil Within 2, Alien Isolation, Resident Evil 2, Dead Space 2, A Plague Tale: Innocence, Prey, and Alan Wake Remastered. So
Is A Plague Tale: Innocence really scary? That was on my list to play. Maybe I won't be able to play it.
No, not really.
atmospheric.
It's very atmospheric, and like it's you know how you talked about, you're like, wow, Dark Souls seems like kind of like a grimy, like disgusting place, and like I definitely wouldn't want to live there. They're like, wow, they're like, let's just crank that up with as many rats as possible. Right. Like it's dreary, I'll say, but it's also like one of my favorite games of the generation. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's still on Game Pass, right? Like I might have to.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'll dive in eventually.
Highly recommend it. I think I've actually played everything on this list, or just about.
I played Alan Wake, but never finished it. I should go back and play that. But you're mentioning Alien Isolation reminded me of way back before the game came out. I saw a demo of that at like EB Expo 2014 or something, and I remember it vividly because the demo was just them playing the game, so the alien wasn't scripted. So we are there with the demoist trying to escape together, and we're like in his shoes, and he doesn't know where the alien is. So it was just really, really riveting, and I was crapping myself the whole time.
Yeah, I almost think Alien Isolation is close to the most perfect horror game ever made, in my opinion. In terms of that, like stealth, like you're relatively powerless. You have some tools, but the alien learns, and like the more you use like flares and other bits and pieces, the more it becomes used to them. Like if you chuck a flare 5 times, it'll start ignoring it and go to where you threw it from. And like guns don't really work. The game is maybe like it's a third too long. Like there's an extra bit towards the end where I'm like, okay, you don't really need that. Like you could have just ended it here.
I remember reviews saying it kind of outstayed its welcome.
A little bit, yeah, because they get to the part where it's like, okay, well now I have a flamethrower to get the alien to back off, and then it also turns into like, again, for those who haven't played it, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it goes from more alien to aliens, and not like all the way to like we're here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, now all I need is a deck of cards.
Can you explain? I haven't watched the movies.
Yeah. I know, Cameron. I am well aware that you haven't watched some of the most important movies of anyway.
Cool. Just wanted to establish that.
Yes, yeah, but yeah, Alien Isolation I think is fantastic, especially if you played in VR. That game is fucking scary.
Yeah, no thanks, I'm good.
Actually, that's a good point. Resident Evil 4 VR came out recently, didn't it? That's the one I want to...
It's either out or soon out, yeah.
Yeah, coming out relatively soon, right? I'm interested to see what happens with that. That seems... I mean, it's a little bit of an odd choice. I mean, it's a fan favorite, but I don't know how well
they just needed to hit their quota of like how many different consoles they could release it to.
Yeah, true.
Coming to Sony Fridge soon. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of these ones... I loved A Plague Tale: Innocence. I need to go back to it. Actually, yeah. I think horror games for me, like that's like I've played a little bit of Alien Isolation, but I feel like those ones are the more scary because they add that atmosphere in there, like just the whole being chased. Like Visage to me, like when we talked about it last week, it didn't do it well.
Yeah. Like Visage is kind of how you don't do it really. It's a lot of scripting, and also like a lot of the thing with Alien is that like the alien shows up wherever it wants, but it'll find you if you make mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas most horror games are like, well, we're just kind of going to wander around, and if you walk into line of sight, then we're just going to chase you for a bit. It's a hard balance to find, because also like you don't want to have like a horror game is built around like you have to be afraid but also not frustrated, because frustration is the opposite of fear, right? It's the thing is like, well, if the alien finds you 19 times out of 20, then it's like, well, now I'm just like a reset numbers game, just going to keep doing this till eventually I get it. And there are parts of the game that are like that, where the stealth kind of breaks. But if the alien only finds you maybe 2 out of every 10 times, it's like, okay, well, now it's like, okay, there's a good chance the alien's going to find me, but if I'm smart and careful and a little bit lucky, I should be okay. And it's more the anticipation, and like there are parts of the game where it's like, okay, I need to hack this computer, or I need to blowtorch my way through this thing. I'm going to be facing this thing. I do not know what is going on behind me, and I'm like, do I have 10 seconds to do this, or do I not? I don't know where the alien is, or I do kind of know where the alien is, or or I know where the androids are, or like it's
It's how I felt too with Outlast the first time I played it.
Yeah, Outlast is very similar to that. I think Outlast is a bit more unfair, but that's kind of
Yeah, my friends trapped me one I think last Halloween actually. They said, "Yeah, come on over, have some drinks." Not doing anything, and then they forced me to play Outlast. I was like, "You bastards!"
Yeah, that game terrifies me. Even that's
I think that's one of the only ones that is really like, other than the psychological horror of like Layers of Fear. That one's the only one that's kind of just made me a little bit like, all right. Where Visage is just like, all right, cool, there's a guy behind me. Run, ha! Like, it's just stupid. But
I know, Shane, have you played any of the Resident Evil series?
No, I had a friend. I was at a friend's once, and he booted up RE4 for me. And that was like tank controls, right? Where like you can't
kind of
move when you're
can't
aiming.
move and shoot. Yeah.
I must say, like, I think that mechanic into like today's gaming world is heavily criticized, but it really works in terms of like injecting that horror into the experience, so much so that I think a lot of people kind of criticize RE5 for not being like a fantastic horror experience, maybe because of that. Like it's kind of like a careful what you wish for sort of thing. But I did, when I was at Ubisoft, we had a PlayStation VR, and I think is it called the Kitchen demo for RE7 came out. And we booted that up, and everyone in the office could hear me scream from our games room when I tried that. I didn't even leave the first room. Like I got to the door, and I'm like, I refused to leave this room. And I think something walked past really quickly, and I just, top of my lungs, belted out this blood curdling scream, and that was enough for me.
Amazing.
Is there any other horror games that we should mention that deserve to go on this list?
Some of the stuff is even a little bit like, I don't think Prey is much of a horror game. I don't think that Plague Tale is a horror game.
They morph it into like that thriller kind of category, don't they?
Yes, but like there's some
original Dead Space, should that be on there? I feel like that gets a great rap.
I reckon it'll definitely, with the remaster when it comes out.
Yeah, 1 and 2 I think are especially. Yeah, I mean 1 is like fucking terrifying. Like I mean that is like, that has exactly that same. It's our Resident Evil 4 in space was the pitch, right? Like it's the same thing. Can't move while you shoot for the most part. You got to be really creative in killing your enemies, and they can come from pretty much anywhere because you're on a space station.
ZNMS in chat says a Silent Hill. I've never played a Silent Hill game, but yeah, they're pretty revered.
Yeah. Silent Hill for sure. Soma, another one he mentions. Yeah, Soma is a great one. Is more of a walking simulator. With horror elements. I mean, so much so that you can actually turn off the deaths and just kind of just wander past the scary things if you want, just to experience the story. Because the horror like gameplay elements feel a little bit tacked on. Like they're like, oh, you need to hide from this creature for a little bit. You're like, okay, well, whatever. I don't really feel like this adds much to it.
I wouldn't say like absolute horror, but I would say like Little Nightmares 2 would be a really good game.
Oh, so yeah, Little Nightmares 1. That's a game that I had assumed was like hardcore horror just based on the title. Then one of my good mates, Scott, kind of just was berating me. He's like, Shane, you need to play it. And like, it's got more in common with Limbo than it does any other horror game. Like, it's just a very creepy but fantastic puzzle platformer. I loved it. Again, so thankfully pushed me to play that game.
I haven't played the second one, but the first one was so good. I mean, especially that towards that last level where you're in the second last level, I think, where you're running away from the patrons.
Oh man,
it's fucking terrifying.
Horrifying.
So it's like getting flashbacks to like Spirited Away, and the influences on that stuff is so good. Like as an aesthetic, it kind of has like I was playing. Limbo is probably another good one in terms of like just like a creepiness factor, not necessarily a horror factor.
Yeah, just checking other lists as well. They got Metro Exodus, which that fits more into thriller.
Yeah, Metro is kind of an interesting one. I mean, the original Metro definitely had a sort of like a tense horror-esque theme where they have some supernatural stuff, but also it's a lot of stealth.
I think the novels too are painted in such a way that.
Basically, I mean, like the games are a very faithful adaptation of the books for the most part. At least the first one. I've only read Metro 2033, but yeah. Obviously not in its native Russian. I think it does lose a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
It loses a little bit being changed into English, as they always say. But Yeah, but I don't know. So Shane, I guess you're not planning on playing any horror games over the weekend then?
Definitely not. No. No. I'll just stick to enjoying the lollies.
Fair. Yeah, more treats than tricks. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cameron, what have you got for any Game Pass updates this week?
Alright, so Game Pass updates. This week has been like amazing for stuff that's come out to Game Pass. So just going through the list, I'll talk about the ones that I haven't really played, and then I'll talk about the ones that I have played. So Backbone came out for console. It was originally in PC back a few months ago. Basemaster Fishing 2022. Wingman came out to console, which I'm keen to check out this week. Alan Wake American Nightmare, which you've played before. Pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's more like arena focused, more combat focused than the original Alan Wake. But if you wanted more of that kind of game, that is there.
Yeah. Non-Guns, which we got a free code for from Digerati like a few months ago. I didn't really care for it. But yeah. Other than that, Moonglow Bay, which is basically like Stardew Valley with fishing. Love it. Like it is,
Looking forward to that.
It is really good. Age of Empires 4, Trebuchet game. Like I played a few hours of it today, and I'm just like, can I postpone the podcast? Can I postpone?
I'm so excited for Age 4. Like I grew up on the original Age, and when Age 2 Deluxe Edition came out, like I would spend just like lazy Sunday mornings just playing that while like there's a podcast on my second monitor and just going into like an exhibition match against AI and just having a blast, man. Oh, Age is so good.
Problem with Age of Empires 2 is I'll wake up at 7. Like I'm in the shakes at the moment, so I'll have my shake. It'll get to like 12, have another shake, and then I'll just play Age of Empires campaign all day. Oh, it's dark outside now. Great. Cool.
Yeah, it is one of those games.
It's just, it takes your life, but it is so good. And then
I'm still waiting for Age of Mythology. They got to do it at some stage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's World's Edge gonna do now? Are they gonna?
I don't know, right?
I think they're just gonna keep on pumping out DLC for everything else. Like,
yeah,
I talked about Age of Empires 2 DLC last week. What?
The Duke's
one, yeah, the Duke's, and that's just phenomenal. Like how far they've pushed the envelope for a game that's like 20 years old.
They could go back to all the games that were based on the Age of Empires 2 engine, like the Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds game or whatever it was, where they just basically took the engine and then they plastered Star Wars characters over it, including like spaceships and stuff. Which that game is not made for flying things, so it just completely breaks everything. But yeah, I would love it.
Yeah, there's a way that Xbox and Disney could work together. I didn't think about RTS. Like obviously we've got Indiana Jones coming. There's a bunch of Star Wars games, but yeah, that'd be cool. I'd play that.
Well, I mean, like think of a Star Wars games in the vicinity of like Halo Wars 2.
Yeah, actually, I would actually be super keen for an RTS.
Yeah, like Clone Wars era. That'd be
that'd be amazing.
Like I'm not massive on Star Wars, but like,
well, that's because you're wrong, but that's fine.
But honestly, just a game with all the obviously the vehicles and the sounds and like those visuals. Like
I'd play a game in the universe, but I just don't care for the movies.
Yeah, that's fine. We can agree on that.
And the Forgotten City, which I completed this week, which I'll get more into when I've been playing. Undungeon was also announced to be coming out on 18th of November, which is a colourful pixel action RPG. And then leaving Game Pass, as we said last week, we have Cardo, Celeste, Eastshade, Five Nights at Freddy's Collection, Knights and Bikes, and Unruly Heroes. If you haven't jumped on already, I would be doing either Cardo or Celeste if you don't own it with Games of Gold.
Yeah, Cardo is probably the easiest one.
Yeah, you'd be looking at like 5 to 6 hours, I think it was off the top of my head.
Yeah, if you use a guide, you could probably get that down to 3, although obviously you lose some of it, but...
Such a novel mechanic. Like I loved Cardo. One of those games that I never would have bought, but thankfully it was on Game Pass and really enjoyed it. Yeah. And Celeste is amazing. If you haven't played Celeste, go play Celeste.
Yeah, 100%. It's got, especially with those nice assist features for those of us who aren't quite skilled platformers. All right, do we want to get into what we've been playing then?
Sweet. I'll start off just to go for the Game Pass games that I've done. So I've been streaming pretty much every night now, just to get in the habit of it. I did Mighty Goose, which is basically just Metal Slug as a clone. Really fun, but at the same time, for a game called Mighty Goose, you would expect it to have humor.
Like Untitled Goose Game.
Like it would have, not to that level, but like you would think there'd be like a few puns and all that kind of stuff in there. It's just like, oh, we just need to go and do this. Oh, there's a raven who's a bad guy.
So just it
doesn't lead into it.
Happen to be birds.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't lead into it at all. It's basically just Metal Slug, but like, how can we get away with not ripping off Metal Slug? Gameplay's fine. It's really enjoyable. It's like almost a really good list, but then you'll have to go over slightly for the 10,000 kills, and they basically just rehash the exact same campaign, just with a plus mode with more enemies.
Yeah, okay.
But S ranks are actually not S ranks because you have God mode.
Oh,
as soon as you beat the campaign twice.
Cool, okay, that's good.
So that's why I wasn't complaining that S ranks is that bad for that one.
Oh,
Alright, Martel? Yeah, cool. Getting into it, I finished Halo CE. I got the last few achievements for that. Echo Generation, I also played on stream, which is basically like a more 3D looking Stranger Things.
I'll talk about it as well. I played it.
Alright, I'll leave you to discuss that. But I really enjoyed it. Just for the atmosphere of the game. Like
the art style is stunning.
Yeah.
I'm keen to try it.
The only thing I will say for it, the first fight I had against the raccoons, raccoons bashed me up.
I will talk about that. I will talk about that too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, I played the Forgotten City last night and finished up the campaign this morning. Quite frankly, amazing game, but every single guide I've come across is shit. They give you a vicinity, like they give you a rough idea of like what the path is that you're meant to be doing in terms of NPCs you're meant to talk to, the quest you're meant to do, but the dialogue choices that I've found for every single path or every single guide, I should say, are just wrong. And then I've had to like there's just been bits missing. So
right.
Not to give spoilers away, but the last confrontation that you have in the game, I had to spend like an extra hour and 20 minutes on, which was just frustrating because I was doing the exact same dialogue over and over again alongside an achievement where you have to not do the shortest amount of time loops. So here I am trying to get this guy to like get to the right conversation path to essentially just break the golden rule, which the game is based around. Which is essentially you can't sin, like stealing, murdering, that kind of stuff. If you break the golden rule, what's the word I'm looking for? The magistrate will run back to the Temple of Proserpina, cast a spell which will create a time loop to which you travel in and restart at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's all that time travel mechanics. I'm trying to think what game it was that I compared it to last night.
12 minutes?
Yes, it's like 12 minutes. But actually a good story.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited to play it.
There's so much more I want to say about it, but then at the exact same time, like, I already know off the bat this is a game that Matt will enjoy, and it's going to be a game that you enjoy if you appreciate archaeology or mythology.
Right, and I do like my time loop mechanics and interesting stuff like that. It sounds like fun. Like again, I ran into the same issue though. Was okay, the guides are really unclear on helpful or even just wrong. So
like Neo Seeker is actually usually pretty good for me, but yeah, there was a few dialogue paths that were broken, and I basically had to try everything. I know Welsh Hunter's going to come out with a guide, which I might have a look at as soon as he does, just to like add bits and pieces in because I don't have the time to create a guide myself. But hopefully if somebody does a really good guide, there should be like a 4 to 5 hour completion.
Okay. All right.
Like trusting that you know where the right save points are. The gameplay is not perfect at the same time. Like I know that when they were first advertising the game, because it was a community management position that I applied for. Yeah, not jealous at all. I know that they were comparing this to like Far Cry, stuff like that. It is not.
Right, okay.
It is basically like, all right, cool. We have some cool mechanics like using a golden bow to turn vines into golden vines to climb up, stuff like that. and like a few the not the
Grappling hook.
Grappling hook, yeah. Words. But yeah, it is a really good game, and it's one of those games where story is so much better than gameplay.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's pretty much what I expected.
It reviewed really well. I just checked Metacritic. It's depending on the platform between 85 and 90, which is pretty insane.
Which is unheard of basically for a game like this.
And I think the main team of them was only like a team of 3 over 4 years, because it essentially originated from a Skyrim mod.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what they do in the future. Now, the big two of the week. Age of Empires 4, briefly talked about before. I will quickly just say that it is a very different Age of Empires experience, but not in a bad way. Like, if you're... Like, I would say I'm a Age of Empires 2 loyalist. I do not care for Age of Empires 3, but I will play it eventually just to get the series completion. 4 plays like 2 in a very washed down state, but then at the exact same time allows narration to actually teach you the history throughout the gameplay. This isn't a case of you're going in, you're getting the starting, you're getting some narration from the characters in the midway, and then you're getting the end narration. This is you're going in, you're giving, you go to full detail of what this is all about, and then basically every movement you do that ticks off an objective marker is getting narrated to you.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're like me, where the voice narration doesn't work.
I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I looked to dialogue of video games.
I've watched quite a few streamers. Like I have been waiting for this for like ever since they announced it. Yeah. I watched Jerdman stream the other day. I watched some other people stream it. The narration in the game on their streams was perfect, and I really love how it's like interwoven in such a way that you could play this in a history class, and the history teacher would have no issue with it.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
And I think that's what they were aiming to do. And just like all the extra media around the game, like I'm not sure if anybody else has seen the serial that came out this week.
Oh, the wool, yeah.
For the content creators, the wool.
Wallalalo's rings or something. Yeah.
So
love it.
Xbox ANZ team, amazing.
Yeah. It's just because most people's first experience for Age of Empires 2 would be getting it out of Kellogg's box.
For sure.
Box like back in 2000,
This
2001.
is true, yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see, but they've also added in some stuff like Art of War, which is essentially, and like I only did 2 of them today, but they're really fun in terms of trying to teach you gameplay mechanics against in like a gold, silver, bronze kind of time limit.
Yep.
So it's essentially like, all right, you need to get 20 villages, 400 food, and all this done. So it's like, all right, cool. I need to multitask in such a way that my villagers go and get food, but building houses at the same time to support the villages that are getting created by the town center. I did the exact same thing in a late game economy rush where you needed 80 villages, 30 traders, and 2,400 food, 1,200 gold for Imperial Age. I got everything done. I've just like, my villages are getting made and all that. I went to do the landmark, which is a new thing that they've added, which allows you to advance the age rather than just clicking on the town center.
Right.
I missed 2 villages.
Ah.
I went over by 5 seconds into silver. I was so mad.
That's painful.
But it was like first try, and I know that I'm relatively decent on Age of Empires 2 for the amount of hours I put into it. Like I think 2 for me, definitive editions, it's 700 hours now, so...
Holy cow.
Yeah, he's a madman.
It's like my heavy games, I put in a lot of hours until I can try and squeeze the content from them.
I'm glad it's turning out well, because like Relic has got a really good history of RTS stuff with like, especially with like Dawn of War and Company of Heroes and that kind of stuff, so I'm glad to see that this is kind of, because now Creative Assemblies, all that kind of, the stuff that was happening beforehand is all kind of stopped, so... I think the only real complaints I've been hearing is that there's only 8 civs to start with.
This is going to be one of those games where they're adding content to. For
exactly. Yeah. This will be a platform for RTS stuff for a long time, I imagine.
Yeah.
How many ended up in Age 2? It's like 24 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be
it
like
was
somewhere between 25 and 30 now.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of them, there weren't huge differences between a lot of them, but still, like, you know, it's cool to have them in there. And to have stories to tell. But I guess, you know, again, with all the work they've been doing for each of them, I can imagine there's probably big chunks that they'll need to do.
I'd definitely say, end of the day, Age of Empires 2 is still the better game, just because the amount of content and all that is already established in the series. And
yeah, understandable.
But like the only thing I found myself getting really frustrated with today is like, I feel like how the units are weighted, like putting like spearmen against archers and cavalry against like that kind of damage bonus and resistance.
The triangle, yeah.
Yeah, like it isn't as even as what it used to be. Like you could kind of get away with like having bigger forces, like trample, like regardless of like resistance and all that.
I wonder if that's more of a like casualization a little bit, just to get people a bit less macro-y or micro-y to just kind of, you know, if you want to just, you know, build a huge army of cavalry, eventually you just trample the enemies to death.
Yeah.
Because that's how I play RTS. Is I more Command and Conquer. It's like build mammoth tank, yes, and then you just keep churning them out until you win the game or you lose.
Do Halo Wars 2, delete base.
Yeah, delete base, spawn tank. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you played Guardians of the Galaxy, which I've been hearing nothing but good things about from you and Red.
All right, so this week I had. All right, I've got it here just to give you a rough indication. I had a bag. I had a bag this full of games, of all my doubles that have either come to Game Pass, Games of Gold, and all that. And as some listeners of the podcast would be aware, I went out and bought all the 95-cent games for, like, you know, like anything that was Bethesda, anything that was getting on the sale at the end of last year, start of the year for EB. So I probably spent $200 back then to fill up that bag. I went back in with my birthday trade-in bonus of 50%, plus my 25% level 5 card now, and I got $410 back. So that was a nice little bit of profit. First of all,
well, amazing.
So I'm just like, all right, cool. Then I had the issue of like, what do I spend this Xbox Live currency on? Because I basically own everything now. Or it's in Game Pass, or it's Games of Gold, or like, so I'm like, it goes against every rule that I've set out, but I'm going to spend $100 and get Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, God, okay, yep.
Knowing well and truly, like, this is digital, I'm not going to get the money back. I do not regret that choice at all. This is honestly such a good game that I would say it will rival Horizon 5 for me, for Game of the Year.
Oh, yeah, come on. It can't be that good.
It is really good. And anybody that knows me, anybody knows my love of Forza Horizon, that is a big statement to make.
Yeah. I almost don't believe it.
I'll go with the issues first, yeah? The only issues I've had so far is 2 game crashes in very gameplay heavy moments. Because when I actually get to the gameplay, I'm just button mashing every single combination that I can come up with. Because it equates to, like, you can button mash everything and it just works out beautifully during the battles. Because it's basically just LB combination with like A for a certain move, for whatever like character. So you don't get to play as everybody. You're just Star-Lord, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Okay.
And I know that Brad's opinion was that, like, I want to play with everybody, but I think the game would be much more of a disservice than having the option to play as everybody.
The way it got pitched to me was that it was Mass Effect meets Final Fantasy 15 in terms of its combat, where it's like you have a bunch of characters around you that can support you and you can call on them for stuff, but essentially you're doing most of the fighting yourself. Yeah,
which is pretty much like how it is. But then even like looking in the background too and having like Rocket and Groot, like the scenes like that, just it's beautiful. This game plays like a 30-hour Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
All right.
It has the exact same atmosphere as the 2014 movie. And then like enough like really good twists. If you have played it, Chapter 8, when they play Don't Fear the Reaper, that is my favorite scene by far.
Right, it also has that licensed music in it, yeah, which is great.
Which I've seen some streamers basically like go, all right, well, this game is meant to be played with licensed music, so like screw it.
Right.
which is interesting. But
I've been impressed with like the reception it's gotten critically as well.
I was so hesitant.
Leading up to it, it's like it screamed just everything about it to me was completely underwhelming. I'm like, I have no interest in this whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's been a pleasant surprise for most.
Yeah, although I mean, in terms of like critical opinion, it's been a little bit more. Well, it's higher than I expected, but not as high as again. We're still seeing some people being like, oh, it's okay. But I've also like it's been more polarizing than I've expected. I've heard people like Cameron say like it's the best thing I've played all year, and then also people being like, oh, it's fine. Like it was like but also like some people are like, oh, do you like the Guardians of the Galaxy like movie? It's like yes, no, maybe, I don't know. I like it feels like the kind of thing where it's like you need to kind of have it in your hands to kind of have an opinion on it.
See, I think that's the thing too. Like I'm a massive Marvel fan, so it might just be fanfare for me. Like I might just be liking it just because of that. But at the same time, it feels like it's a faithful adaptation.
Sure.
And like I'm finding myself actually going with the outfits of the 2014 characters more than anything else, just because I think it fits the universe. If I was to be really nitpicky too, the voice acting is like a little subpar in parts.
I was about to ask how that. Yeah.
But yeah, Red's finished it. Like Red's adored it. I basically just said like, you need to tell me when you get up to this part because, like, as people know, like, Don't Fear the Reaper is one of my favorite songs of all time. And one of the only songs that I know before 1993.
Yeah.
I should say everything on the soundtrack though is pretty familiar. Like We Built the City and all that. It's so good just to be like in the middle of a battle, do a group huddle, which is their like team mechanic, giving them a motivating speech. So how those work is you can either do the right path or the wrong path. If you do the right path, it gives everybody damage boost. If you do the wrong path, it only gives you damage boost.
Right. Okay.
Which is just, it makes sense. Just like, all right, cool. It's only improving my morale because I've given a shitty speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just to do that in a really beautiful environment, like with amazing gameplay, and then just having a really great 80s song blaring in the background is like perfect.
It's like, I'm gonna have to buy this, aren't I?
Yeah.
All right.
I was really debating the other day, just like, do I want to buy it from Matt?
No.
And I'm just like, I don't know if this is gonna be a misfire, so I just bought you Ghost Runner instead.
Yeah, thanks.
Wait for Black Friday, Matt. It'll be the same.
Exactly. That's the thing. It'll probably be on sale. Maybe it might be a good.
So many other games to play in the meantime.
It might be a good Christmas game, actually.
But the next few months of games are like crazy, and I'm glad that I bought Guardians before everything else comes out to actually experience it. The trouble is like getting to today. I'm gonna want to play Age of Empires 4 next week. I'm gonna want to play Forza Horizon 5. When am I gonna finish this game off?
Right. Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, 9,335 for the week.
Oh, nice. Good work. Shane, you got anything? We're running a little short on time, but
yeah, I actually haven't been playing a lot this past week specifically, but very recently, like I'll just dabble on these two. Been jumping into Back 4 Blood with mates, and also we've been playing a lot more of Deep Rock Galactic, which my mates and I played a long time ago, but they just keep adding more content to that game. It blows my mind. It probably will be like up there as one of my favorite co-op games ever. Just the character, the mechanics, I find it so engaging, and it really leans into needing to work as a team with the different character classes. If you haven't played it, it's on Game Pass. It's fantastic. And the one thing I'll say about Back 4 Blood is that I wasn't a huge Left 4 Dead fan. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it because I just didn't have a lot of mates back then to play online with at the time. Whereas now I do, particularly on PC. And a lot of the criticism I've seen come from it is mostly that it doesn't. There's nothing special about it, which I totally agree with and understand that criticism. But for me, it's kind of a good thing that this game is a bit more simple than most. The reason I don't dive into a game like Destiny is because I find it so not intimidating, but like I feel as though the second I jump into that game, I'm immediately behind. It feels like it's a chore to catch up, or I feel like I'm playing the game wrong because everyone's ahead of me. That I just like step away from, I'm not interested because I don't want to feel this way. Whereas Back 4 Blood, I know I can jump in and like starting a new campaign with friends. I'm not behind anyone. It's all level playing field, and I can contribute as much as everyone else. And there aren't like layers of mechanics going on that I need to keep in mind, or I need to keep track of, or people need to explain to me. So again, it kind of goes against my love of most games where I'm just like rich mechanics. Whereas this, like, I know that I can just jump in, shoot some zombies with friends, have a good time, you know, dabble in a variety of different weapons, and yeah, at the end of the night, step away and do it all again like a week later, and not have like missed out on gaining any progress or anything like that. So I think I like it for that reason. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, haven't been playing much. Looking forward to Age. Definitely pumped for Forza. I'll try and squeeze in Forgotten City sometime as well. There are so many games I need to catch up on. Like, I haven't played Artful Escape, 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Psychonauts 2. I haven't finished Death's Door yet. I need to finish that. It's just going to get like, I don't think I'll finish many of those games before Halo, but I don't know how many hours in the day you guys have to play games. Like 9,000 game score in a week. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous, Cameron.
I think a lot of it was like the easy Zidalon games that I did last Friday night.
Right.
Yeah, true. A lot of it's still just trash.
Crazy. I can't believe, like, anyway. Off topic.
All you have to do is stream every single night to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
I mean,
I'm old now.
Okay,
I'm over the hill. I'm 31.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's all downhill from there, right?
Can I just say though, it's so funny though, the amount of shit that I used to cop of not finishing games. Actually streaming again has made me want to finish games.
Good, because you should be finishing games, because that's what developers do. They make the game so you'll finish it. I mean, I know that no one finishes games on the grand scheme.
I mean, you gonna make that same argument for the Coalition?
Well, okay, actually no. The Coalition is the exception. They make DLC in games to annoy their customers, because they're a bunch of assholes. Anyway, I'll just quickly go through some of the stuff I've been playing. It's been a little bit of a busy week. I did Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. It's
Was
okay.
it totally accurate?
Yeah, as accurate as I suppose it could be. It's fine. It's one of those games where the achievements actually make the game worse, because each of the campaigns, which are all just like set battles that you need to do, are there's an achievement for doing each level in a campaign without losing once, and if you lose, you need to redo all of the ones of that certain campaign, which basically takes all the experimentation and interesting, like, fun stuff out of the game, because it's like you just always pick the winning. It's like you either need to look at a guide or you use the debug menu to essentially cheat your way through it, because you're just wasting time otherwise. Because you just have to replay big swaths of the game, which I think it kind of goes against what it should be. But like, as like a humorous thing, it's very funny. It looks great. It plays relatively well. It's fine. And it's a relatively easy completion if you do it on PC. Actually, you can do it on PC or Xbox. There's different ways of finishing it, but yeah, there are tricks. I also went back and finished up Blue Estate, which is something I talked about a long time ago. Is a on-rails shooter with a weird, like, wacky kind of like it's like some weird conspiracy guy sitting in an FBI interrogation room spinning this yarn that's just complete bullshit. So it's just like, oh, and then he turned a corner and there's like 50,000 guys and he's made all their heads explode, and it's like, okay, whatever.
It's basically just like, what if Tiny Tina was a
kind of, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's okay. Like, I had the bug to go back and finish it because it's been on my list for a long time, and there's some tricks to make it a lot easier, so I did that. I also did Nightbook, which is one of the latest Wells interactive F&V games. I didn't think it was very good. It was okay, but it was obviously made during COVID, so you could tell all the actors are in their own homes shooting this stuff because they never interact with each other in any real physical way, even though they try to do some camera tricks. It was okay, but I wasn't all that impressed. I think they've done better games in the past. I got back into Hitman 2 because I remember that Hitman 3 came out at the beginning of this year, which feels like a lifetime ago. And I want to play Hitman 3, but you need to finish all the Hitman 2 stuff for it to carry over. So I decided to finally go back to that. There's also a good walkthrough for it on TA. So I'm having a good time with that again. It's been a long time since I did, because all of the Hitman 1 content is in Hitman 2, so you need to replay all of it. And I was kind of dreading it, but going back to it, it's been long enough now that I'm actually re-enjoying it and just kind of having a good time doing all the crazy stories and looking at all the puns of all the challenges and stuff when you kill people. And the game has that beautifully dry, dark sense of humor that I just love. So yeah, again, highly recommend that. But if you haven't played any of them, you might as well just jump straight into 3 because it has all the content. I also played Echo Generation, which Cameron mentioned. Game looks really good. Story, it has a great 80s aesthetic. I mean, up to the like where I fought a giant sandworm that was in a cabin that looked just like Tremors. Like it was like it's on the nose. Yeah, it's kind of like Stranger Things without the license almost. But like, the problem I have with it is actually playing the game. The combat is really unbalanced.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of timing based stuff. A lot of the enemies don't respawn, so you can't really farm. It's an RPG with timing based mechanics, and the enemies will kick your ass really quickly. There's only like 3 spots in the whole game where you can regenerate your health. You have to walk all the way back to them. Items are very limited, and because the enemies don't respawn all the time, it's hard to farm like money or healing items or even levels. And the bosses are really overpowered.
I was going to quickly add with that with the principal, because that's all. Without saying too much, that's fucked up in itself.
Yes.
I nearly got soft locked.
Really?
On stream with that,
right.
And until I realized there was actually health items in the bin after you die a certain amount of times.
Yeah. I
wouldn't have been able to escape that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is that like there's and the game also explains almost nothing about it. Like it feels like it was a game that was made art direction and design first, and then gameplay was kind of tacked on because they needed it's just not balanced. I've kind of gotten to the point now where I think I'm like past the halfway point, and I've gotten a lot of good items and that kind of stuff, and now I'm kind of overpowered. So
see, this was the day 1 release though, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. I think this will be one of those games though that will just have a rocky launch for us, and then it'll get quality of life improvements down.
I don't know if it will though. I don't know if it's the kind of game that gets patched. I think I'm talking out my ass because I don't know anything about game development, obviously. But it's like, I don't know if this is the kind of title where they're like, well, we got to tighten up the graphics on level 3. I don't think that's I think this feels more like we're going to put this game out. It's a cool thing that we made, but we're kind of going to move on.
Okay. It is hard for indie developers. Like it costs money for each patch as well.
Exactly.
So,
Like
if the publisher's not seeing a return, then maybe it's not worth it.
But like as soon as like aesthetic and that sort of stuff, I think is kind of interesting. The story's kind of like throwaway, just kind of excuse to it's like E.T. mixed with like Stranger Things, basically. I don't know. It's fine. I'm gonna get through it. It's a relatively short game. You can probably get it done in like 5 to 6 hours. Maybe a little bit longer because you can do some grinding later in the game. But there is that thing of having being soft lock. It's like, well, I'm now stuck, and all I have left to do is fight this boss fight that I'm stuck on. And I got stuck on like the big robot one in the junkyard. I got stuck in that boss fight because he's like, there was no enemies for me to grind. I just had to like use a few items and just try and struggle my way through it. And then afterwards, everything's been relatively smooth since. But yeah, it's just kind of leaves a bad feeling. And then I talked a little bit about Life is Strange: True Colors last week. It was basically just saying, I did the first chapter. I'm interested in it. I like the original Life is Strange, done by God, who is it? Don't Nod. Thank you. Yep. Who also did Tell Me Why, and they did the second game. So this is made by Deck 9, who did the prequel, Before the Storm, and so they've done this one as well. And I think they fucking nailed it, to be honest. I think this might be my game of the year. It's
all right. So you have to buy Guardians of the Galaxy and I have to buy Life is Strange.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it needs to be, actually, because like the first chapter, I was like, well, this is like, okay, like I like this. I like the characters, I like the introduction. It's kind of like it's got that cute sense of humor. It doesn't like the thing I realized playing through like the first one, and like Shane, you mentioned, is that some of the dialogue is a bit cringe in the first couple of games, is that aging the characters up into their 20s kind of gets rid of a lot of that. Because you get rid of a lot of like the high school drama stuff. It gets replaced by small town drama. But it's like the characters are a little more self-aware. It's also like the writing is
worse though.
Oh, like it kind of is, but it also plays into the story more. Okay. And like I don't want to give any spoilers because it's great, but every single chapter is a different thing. It's a smaller game in terms of scope. Like you basically spend all of your time in the town. But like the first chapter is like an introduction. The second one is kind of like something like as is typical, like there's a cliffhanger at the end of the first thing that changes, and then like second like recontextualizes the town, and then the third chapter is like, okay, well, we're going to take the town and do something completely different with it, and actually change the game completely. Like we're gonna there's an in-universe reason why this is happening, but also we're gonna change the game mechanics to fit this in-reason universe. I don't want to give it away, but it's great. Like,
is it the level at which they do Life is Strange 1 with the end of Chapter 3 through the photos?
Like that. So that happens. That something like that happens where the powers change a little bit.
Okay.
Her power is essentially she can feel people's emotions, but you get options. It's like, okay, well, I can feel people's emotions, but what happens if I get really close to them and get really in tune with their emotions? What does that do to me? And then also like, okay, well, people are feeling this way. What would happen if I could take those feelings away from them? And that sort of stuff. And like, it's like, okay, well, if someone's feeling really angry and it's destructive and dangerous for them, is it my responsibility to not just try and make them feel better as like a human being, but also to literally take that away from them? But what does that do to me? Like, because I take on that anger, and it's a very, and it has a lot of like subtext, and then like the fourth chapter is this whole like, really cute thing, and then the fifth chapter does like the Life is Strange thing where it's like, okay, we're gonna take a more cerebral, like going into the mind and like exploring stuff. But like every single chapter is very distinct and very different. The characters are really great throughout. You get a real bond through them. It's a story that's told over like a few weeks, so it's not like a long-term story, but it's also not like, oh, all this crazy shit happened in like 1 week. What a surprise. It's like, no, this is something that's building. Like there's a conspiracy. There's kind of like interesting stuff going on with like this. It's a mining town. And also like, so there's like tensions between the people who live in the town, like normally who like, are your traditional Colorado people who are like, oh, I own an incense shop, or like I have like a weed store, or I have like arts and crafts. You're like, okay, yes, but also the town is also infested with people who are like, I work in the mine because it's the best paying thing here. And it's the reason this town still exists. And it's like, okay, well, is it still good for the environment? Like there's a lot going on. And I'll say my greatest thing about this game is the achievements for this game are basically get the collectibles in each of the chapters and just finish the story. I still went and talked to every single person I could. I read at people's emotions as much as possible. I tried to do every interaction. I tried to rinse everything out of this game. And I do not do that with games because I just don't have time, Like the achievement hunting fix is like, I need to move on to the next thing. But I took the time to do this because I could tell that this is something special that people need to play. Especially if again, and I talked about this on our Discord, it is still the Life is Strange formula. If you don't like the mechanic of playing that game and that doesn't do it for you, this is not going to change your mind. But I still think the narrative is the best they've ever done. And I just had an absolute blast playing it. Like I was up till like 2 a.m. that day because I was like, I finished like chapter, like I was like, okay, well, I'll do chapter 2 and 3. And then I was like getting to like 10 o'clock, and I was like, I kind of want to see the end of this. And I got to end of chapter 4, and it was like midnight, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do chapter 5. I need to see the end of this. Like I will sacrifice sleep for this. But yeah, so I would I'll give it the highest recommendation possible. I absolutely loved it. It's not going to be for everyone, but I think people who like that kind of formula of stuff need to play this. But yeah, so that puts me at 7,130 for this week.
Very nice.
I gotta say, you mentioning that obviously that the writing was a bit cringy with like the teenage characters in the first Life is Strange. Now this is like 20-year-olds. I think I'll just wait for the Life is Strange, whatever comes next, when it's just like 30-year-old drama that I can relate to.
Absolutely.
Where it's like all your friends are getting married and having kids, and you can't crack into the housing market because the prices are crazy. That's the one I'll wait for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's there. I think this is like right on the cusp of that, where it's like, okay, get it, and then you're like, okay, the next one is definitely going to be like, you're 35, and you're still working a job that you fucking hate, and it's like, well,
but the power in that game's trying to achieve the American or the Australian dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, starting an underground fight ring or something. Yeah.
Life is Strange: midlife crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'll play. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Life is depressing. All right, Cameron, do you want to just quickly go through the leaderboards?
All right, just quickly smash through. So I'm in third on 9,335. Mephisto's showing up on 12,140, and Mad Mike Forever is on 14,105. We've had one question this week. Is from Isaac. Hey guys, when I first played Fallout 3, I hated it enough to delete the game from my hard drive. However, the concept of the game intrigued me enough to put it back on the hard drive. I got a little bit further, and now Fallout is one of my favorite series. What games or games did you dislike at first but later fell in love with thanks to the show?
Can I go last? I need to think.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm struggling. I know there's been games that I just am not in the right mindset in that time that I need to come back to, but it's not necessarily because I hate the game.
No. There's definitely stuff where I was like, I bounced off it and then come back to it. I'm like, actually, this is incredible. Or at least this is like really good. There was something recently that did that for me. I'm trying to remember what I went back to.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I'm really not sure. I think
I will have an answer. I just need to think about mine. Yeah, I know this has happened to me in the past.
I'm quickly looking through my games.
Yeah, me too. I'm just kind of thinking.
You know what? It's not necessarily because I hate it, but I hate how the product was first done. Halo MCC.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Halo Wars 2 actually. I really bounced off that in a way. Like I played quite a bit of it, and then I kind of got to a point where I was like, I'm not really like I like Halo, and like I like Halo Wars 1. 2 is still good, but I wasn't like the story wasn't grabbing me and that kind of stuff. And then like we sat through it, and like we went back to it, and like I and Cameron and I we went through and did it on Legendary, and I was like, actually, this is a fantastic game. Like I think the co-op experience really kind of reignited my interest for that game, and I think that's true of a lot of games.
It's funny because there's like so many different aspects. It could be the fact that the game launch has been bad, so then I've come back at it. Not necessarily because I've hated it, but I've hated in that time. Like the game hasn't given me what I was expecting of it. Especially in case like Halo, where it's like, I've played these games before. If I'm not getting the exact same experience I was getting on the original console or the Xbox 360, then why am I playing on the Xbox One? Halo Wars 2 is a great example, or any game that really shines with co-op. And sometimes you just don't have your buddies available to actually play a co-op game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think of other ones for me.
I will say I picked up Hellblade and it didn't grab me initially. I didn't hate it by any stretch, but I shelved it for the longest time. I was like, I should really go back and try it. And then when I did and managed to just power through it in one sitting, that is now one of my favorite games. And I will say, like, I remember trying Oblivion and really didn't like it. But then I tried again with Skyrim when that came out, and I love Skyrim. I think that game does a great job of being completely open, but also for those people who, like myself, who might get put off by that, like not having somewhat of a direction. It does a great job of just like giving you just like a breadcrumb trail to follow. So it's clear that it's like, okay, if you're too intimidated to just start walking in any direction, here's a first mission to get you started. So I think that game is masterful in that respect. So that's a game that kind of like made me an Elder Scrolls fan when the previous entries really didn't.
Yeah.
I've got one more to add. Forza Horizon 2. And that was because of a game-breaking bug that deleted all my save halfway through the game.
Oof.
And you think of game series that are uncommon to spend like upwards of 500 hours on one of their titles, to go back that far and be that far behind is just painful. So it's not usually because I have like emotions towards the games. It's typically because I've run into a game error, or it just hasn't lived up to my expectations as a launch title.
Yeah, I think what I was talking about with Hitman 2 is probably another good example of that, right? Because I played the hell out of Hitman 1 when it came out. I did like I've done all of that game. And when I tried to get back into 2, it had so much of that same DNA and that same content that I felt like burnt out. And I just I did like the Miami level, and I did a lot of it. And then I've had just like the rest of the game left to do, and I've just bounced off it. And I was like, I need to put this down. But now, like, I went back to it and I did like this. I did the Columbia level, and I was like, actually, this is still amazing. Like this, I'd forgotten how good the game was. And so I'm probably going to power through and do a lot more of it. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that will pretty much wrap us up. We'll just go through the housekeeping. We've also got our Patreon, which we need to shout out. Patreon.com/Hall of Gamers. Which, if you don't know, is a place where you can give us some cash, subscription service to help us pay for competitions, keeping the lights on, equipment, all that kind of stuff. We literally couldn't do the show without you guys, so we really appreciate you. And in return, we do a separate podcast that's Patreon exclusive called Lights, Camera, and Action, where Cameron and I sit down and watch a video game movie, usually one that one of us hasn't seen. We do a bit beforehand where we talk about the game that it's based on and the series and what we remember about the movie, and we watch the trailer. We go away and watch it, and then we come back and discuss around what we thought about what we thought and kind of give it a bit of a rating. We've got like a ranking system of what the best and worst movies we've seen are. The best one at the moment is the original Mortal Kombat from the 90s. The worst one is the original Resident Evil from the early 2000s. The rest of them fit in there somewhere. We've done quite a few of them. Mario Brothers,
Tomb Raider, Postal.
Tomb Raider,
Need for Speed.
Yep. We did Need for Speed. Yep.
Assassins.
Yep, Assassin's Creed. There's been some interesting ones in there. We just recorded and we just watched Street Fighter, the movie, the 90s classic. I love it. Cameron hates it, I already know, but we're going to record that probably on Monday, so hopefully that'll be out later this week.
Go watch Dead Rising 3 for Halloween. Dead Rising Watchtower.
Yes, yep, definitely do that because that was actually a pretty good movie.
Quickly to shout out our patrons too.
Yes.
So we've got Mad Lefty, we have G Space Man, we have Admiral Awesome, Odrin, we have Keo, Cobra Todd, Moogle356, Charlotte in the chat, Kung Fu Skills, Hawkeye Barry, Hack and Pone, Cavalier 07?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, alright, cool. I figured the numbers, sorry. Mr. Bradley Love and Mick Love and Legend.
Yep, so thank you guys, we really appreciate it. And just quickly, we're going to announce our contest winner. We've moved it to the end, so make sure you guys all listen.
Didn't we announce it at the start of the show?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
Why not?
Oh, maybe you said before.
I told you who won, cool. But we didn't announce it. So yes, the winner of our contest, Cameron, you maybe explain the contest quickly?
So basically, we get to pick 3 games, and then you get to pick what use one out of the 3 games as a bit of a head-to-head community kind of thing. And then we draw the game at the end of the month. So what were the 3 games? That is a very good question that I'm trying to think of right now. I can't think of
Castlevania Advanced Collection.
Castlevania, a Golf Club Wasteland. What was the first? Elder's Blood? Definitive Edition?
Elder's Blood that no one voted for. So which one won in the end?
I will just check now. I thought you did this at the start of the show.
I picked the winner, mate.
Oh, you picked the winner. For your rigorous testing methods.
Yes, my random number generator.
It was Castlevania by 1 vote.
By 1 vote. All right. Well, congratulations to Odrin, one of our newest subscribers, good friend of ours from the Gaming Sandbox. Congrats, mate. Get in contact with us, or we'll see you when you see it, and we'll get you a copy of that. Which is funny because we know his response is just going to be like, "Oh my god, more games that I need to add to my collection." Yeah. We can take it off your hands if you don't want it, mate. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But yeah, congratulations. If you want to be in to win it, you got to join our Patreon. Each tier has extra entries. So tier 1 gives you 1 entry, tier 2 gets you 2, tier 3 gets you 3. If you're a tier 3 subscriber, you got a lot more chances. Unless you're Charlotte, in which case I've taken you out of the running because you've won too many times. All right. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. You can come watch us on Twitch when we do this show live. Cameron, when's our next episode going to be going up? So it will be next Saturday, AEDT, 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Is it NZT at the moment? NZDT, yeah, NZDT, yeah. Yep. I'll post all the times, but it'll be like basically Friday night in America, so we can get Mike on, which would be good. Sorry, another Mike. We have multiple friends for Mike, yeah. You can also catch us on Twitter at Hall of Gamers Pod. You can catch us at discord.io/Hall of Gamers. We have a new one. Yep, so it's our new Discord to go along with our new rebranding that Cameron's done. Yeah, word challenge, all this lovely little graphics that I'll change again next week. And yeah, and I mean, we already talked about the Patreon. And if you want to send us an email, it's Hall of Gamers Podcast @gmail.com is the address. But otherwise, there's heaps of ways to hit us up. We love getting questions. Isaac especially, he's super onto it. We usually have one each week. But yeah, come watch us live. Support us on all the platforms. Give us a review. You guys know how this works. You've listened to the end of a 2.5-hour podcast. You get it. Shane, if people want to find you, where's the best place to look?
Yeah, sure. Magic_casts on Twitter and Twitch. Like I said, I usually do 2 regular weekly shows. One on Wednesdays called The Movie Magic Show. We review films with my mates. And The Question Box, Friday, usually 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. This week, it'll be in 23 minutes at 9 p.m. With these 2 chuckleheads. So yeah, come on over. And all my past stuff is on my YouTube channel, which is just Magic Casts, one word, on YouTube.
Fantastic. Cameron, what about you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Xbox or TA at Shadowless Edge. You can find me on Twitter as Shadowless Edge, one word, or you can find me streaming most nights on Twitch at Shadowless Edge _. I won't be streaming tomorrow though because I have Stephanie this weekend, but I look forward on Sunday to be playing some more Age of Empires 4.
Fantastic. And as always, you can find me on Neomaster on True Achievements, Xbox, and Discord. Again, a special thanks to Charlotte for being the best moderator in the entire world, and just a general overall fantastic human being. And thank you again so much, Shane, for joining us this week.
Pleasure.
Been a pleasure to have you on. We'll catch you guys all next week. I need to come up with something.
What do you mean? We're going to catch them in 20 minutes when we go to...
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay, yes. Come and watch me get slowly, progressively tireder as I try to keep the energy high as we get into the later hours of Friday on the Magic Cast. But anyway, otherwise, we'll see you guys next week. I guess we'll go with goodbye. I keep getting told that peace is a lame thing to say at the end of podcasts. So I'm just like, what do I fucking say?
You're so aware of it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye, have a wonderful time!
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I don't know. Fucking cut the slack. Get us out of here.
Peace was never an option.
Yeah, exactly. Kali Ma. Yeah, just. All right. Play the music.
I mean, we could do a Street Fighter pose before we.
No. Play the music, camera. We're already running low.